Warriors fans, if you missed the 4:45 Pacific ESPN cut-in on First Take Now, the daily wrap-up show that airs after the flagship morning First Take, you have missed the most improbable, credibility-defining, you cannot possibly be serious, Shams Charania moment of the last 3 years. Because at 4:45 this afternoon, Molly Kareem was hosting the rap show going over the day's talking points when the producer's voice came through her earpiece and she stopped mid-sentence. Not the polite, we're gonna take a break, stop. The full-body flinch stop. The kind of stop that only happens when a booth producer is screaming into an anchor's ear. And she looked at the camera and said, "We're going to Shams," immediately, and they cut to him. And what Shams delivered in the next 53 seconds has completely redrawn the map of the entire NBA Western Conference. De'Aaron Fox traded from the San Antonio Spurs to the Golden State Warriors. Confirmed, sourced, announced. And I mean, this specific trade is the one that no NBA insider, not a single one, had predicted 3 days ago. Because everybody said Fox was untradeable. Every source said the Spurs were committed to him. And yet, Shams walked on First Take Now with the phone still buzzing and told the world that Bob Myers' protege, Mike Dunleavy Jr., had pulled off the deal of the summer. Before you scroll off, I'm telling you right now, by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the one specific piece of language Shams inserted mid-report that told every insider in America that Steve Kerr personally drove this trade. I'm also going to tell you what Bob Myers, the former Warriors GM who has been an ESPN analyst for 2 years, Bob Myers did something at 5:02 this afternoon on live television that has confirmed the specific chess move Golden State's front office executed. Stay with me. Do not click off. Here's how it went down. Molly Kareem is on First Take Now. Ryan Clark is next to her. Shannon Sharpe is on the panel. And they were doing a lazy wrap-up of the Colin Kaepernick news cycle when the earpiece exploded. Molly said, "We're going to Shams." And they cut. And Shams, this time actually in the ESPN studio, dark background, phone visible on the desk, Shams looked directly into the camera and said, and this is the direct First Take Now transcript archived on ESPN's official YouTube, "The Golden State Warriors have completed a trade for De'Aaron Fox. Sources tell me. This deal is final." It was closed at 11:52 Pacific time this morning during a phone call between Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Brian Wright of the Spurs. Compensation includes a package of young players, salary matching, and multiple future draft picks. But the key element, the specific thing that made this trade possible, is a third team facilitator. And I am told that team is the Charlotte Hornets. This is a 3-team trade. The framework is registered. Fox will be introduced as a Warrior by Friday. Read that back. Not sources tell me it's close. Not framework is being finalized. Closed. Registered. And a specific date for the introductory press conference. When Shams gives you a public press conference date on live television in July on a trade of this magnitude, he is not speculating. He is reporting from inside the building. He was on the phone with a Warriors official within the last 2 hours. Full stop. And 17 minutes later, as I promised, Bob Myers, sitting in the ESPN Bristol studios as an analyst on the same First Take Now show, did something that has never happened in Warriors reporting history. Myers was silent through the entire Shams hit, watching, nodding, not smiling but not frowning, and when Molly turned to him after Shams walked off and asked, "Bob, your reaction to what your former organization just pulled off?" Myers paused, took a long breath, and then said, and I am quoting from the ESPN transcript because this deserves to be quoted in full, "You know, Molly, I built that Warriors front office to run exactly the kind of trade we just heard about. Steve Kerr and I used to talk in the office late at night about the specific type of guard we would need in the post-Klay Thompson era, and I can tell you with absolute certainty this is the specific guard Steve was talking about. This is the trade Mike Dunleavy Jr. has been quietly preparing for since Kerr re-signed his extension in May. This has been in the works for weeks. Steve drove it, Mike executed it, and Steph Curry is going to be so happy tonight." Read that back. That is Bob Myers, former Warriors GM, publicly endorsing the trade construction, publicly naming Steve Kerr as the driver, and publicly naming Steph Curry as the primary beneficiary. That is the specific insider ritual of a former GM confirming what a current GM did with an eyewitness's authority. That is the receipt from the establishment. When Myers speaks on his former franchise, the entire league listens. And Myers just said, Kerr drove this trade. That is the coach-driven move confirmation that I told you was coming. Now, the whiplash. Because I already know your brain is going, wait, how? How did the Warriors get Fox? Weren't they capped out? Didn't Draymond Green's opt-out already get used on the Michael Porter Jr. trade earlier this summer? How is there money left? And here is the honest answer. Because the Warriors did something specifically brilliant. They pulled the Charlotte Hornets into the deal to absorb Jonathan Kuminga's restricted free agent contract. Kuminga had been in a 2-month standoff with the Warriors front office over his qualifying offer. That standoff was blocking the Warriors' cap flexibility, and Dunleavy Jr. figured out, brilliantly, that if he could get the Hornets to sign and trade Kuminga to Charlotte, the cap complications would clear, and space would open for Fox's $51 million salary. That is a 3-way, 4 front office chess move. That is the specific piece of front office execution that Bob Myers just praised on air. Steve Kerr identified the target, Dunleavy Jr. figured out the mechanism, and now Steph Curry has his running mate. Stay with me. Because once you understand why Fox specifically is the perfect co-star for a 38-year-old Curry, and why nobody outside the Warriors' war room had figured this out yet, this trade stops being shocking and starts being organizational genius. 3 reasons Shams was so confident. Reason 3 is where the reveal lands. Reason number 1, Steph Curry is 38 years old and has spent the last 3 seasons doing something no other player in NBA history has done. He has averaged over 25 points per game as a guard past age 36 on a bad team, while also running the offense and being the primary defensive attention magnet. That is not sustainable. Steph's body cannot carry that workload for 2 more seasons. And the entire Warriors organization, Kerr, Dunleavy, ownership, has known this for 6 months. What Steph needs is a specific type of secondary ball handler who can run the offense for stretches while Steph plays off ball, catches, and shoots. Somebody who takes the primary creation burden off him so his body can rest. De'Aaron Fox is exactly that specific archetype. He is a legitimate all-star point guard who can bring the ball up, run pick and roll, break down defenses, and create for others. And with Fox handling those initiation duties for 10 to 15 minutes a game, Steph gets to be the off-ball assassin he was always meant to be at this stage of his career. That is not just a role tweak. That is a career extension for the greatest shooter of all time. That is what Kerr and Dunleavy have been preparing for since May. Reason number 2, the defense. And this is the specific tactical element that is going to change the entire Warriors playoff calculus. Because Steve Kerr's small ball death lineup requires wing defenders who can switch onto guards and stop dribble penetration. For years, Klay Thompson filled that role. When Klay left in 2024, the Warriors lost their point of attack defense. And every subsequent season, opposing point guards have terrorized the Warriors in the playoffs. Luka in the 2024 series, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the 2025 series. De'Aaron Fox is a genuine 2-way perimeter defender. Not elite, but very good. He can take the toughest guard assignment and hold his own. And with Fox and Jimmy Butler on the wings, plus Draymond Green orchestrating the back line, the Warriors' switch defense is going to look elite again. That is the defensive identity of the Kerr Dynasty era, and it is coming back, because Kerr specifically knew, that Fox was the last piece needed to reboot the defensive scheme. Bob Myers confirmed it on air. That is why this trade is more than a talent acquisition. It is a scheme resurrection. And before I get to reason 3, because reason 3 is the specific language Shams used that told the insider community Kerr drove this trade, talk to me in the comments. Warriors fans, real question, is Fox the specific piece that gets Steph his 5th championship, or does the 4-year contract at $51 million scare you as an aging team? Because I think Dub Nation is going to be genuinely torn on the long-term implications, and I want to read the responses below. Go! Reason number 3, the language. Ready? The framework is registered. Read that specific 3-word phrase. Because, in the ecosystem of NBA insider reporting, the word registered is not casual language. Registered is the specific technical term for the NBA league office having received the notification call from both teams and formally logged the trade in the league database. That is the transactional gate that precedes physicals. That means Fox's medical exam is the only thing standing between this trade and public announcement. And when Shams uses the word registered, a word he uses maybe 3 or 4 times per year, he is telling every insider in America that the paperwork is not just in progress, it is complete, it is filed, it is in the NBA's internal system. And when Bob Myers heard Shams use that specific word, Myers immediately understood that this trade was fully closed. That is why Myers was so effusive in his own analysis. He was not analyzing a rumor, he was analyzing an executed transaction. And when a former GM of the specific franchise involved publicly praises the front office execution on national television in the same segment as the breaking news, that is the highest possible layer of institutional validation. Stop, rewind, registered is the tell. Because in the NBA insider lexicon, registered means the machine has swallowed it. The trade cannot unregister itself. This is done, this is done, this is done. And Steve Kerr quietly is smiling in his office in Rockville, California, right now. Now the skeptic, Stephen A. Smith, went from disbelieving to angry in the span of 90 seconds on First Take. Are you serious? The Warriors got De'Aaron Fox. What? They just got Michael Porter Jr. Earlier this month. Now Fox? For $51 million? Draymond Green is 36. Butler is coming off a torn ACL. Curry is 38. What are you doing, Mike Dunleavy? You are going to be over the apron. You are financially locked out. What is happening in Golden State? And listen, Stephen A's cap concerns are real. The Warriors are heavily committed. The luxury tax is going to be enormous. And the second apron restrictions will limit future flexibility. Those are real concerns. But here's the counter. Golden State has decided, collectively from ownership to front office to coaching staff, that the window with Steph Curry closes in a maximum of 2 more seasons. And when your window is measured in seasons, not years, you spend every penny you have to maximize that window. That is what Kerr and Dunleavy just did. They spent everything. Not because they are reckless, because they are honest. Steph will not be playing forever. And a Kevin Durant, a LeBron James, a Kawhi Leonard. None of those were available to them this summer, so they built a specific patchwork super team from other people's discards. Michael Porter Jr. from Brooklyn, De'Aaron Fox from San Antonio, with Butler already in place from the Miami acquisition last year. That is what a smart contending organization does when it cannot land a franchise-defining star. It builds a super team out of secondary pieces. And this specific super team with Curry, MPJ, Fox, and Butler is going to be nearly impossible to defend in a 7-game series. Stephen A is calculating the cap sheet. Kerr is calculating the trophy case. 2 very different exercises entirely. Here's the funny part, and it is genuinely delicious. Because for years, the Warriors have been the franchise that hoards its picks, that operates conservatively, that famously refused to trade its future for present help. Even when it was rumored the front office was in on Kevin Durant reunion talks, Dunleavy stayed patient. Even when Dame Lillard was available, Dunleavy stayed patient. And yet, in the summer of 2026, the same franchise has quietly, aggressively, ruthlessly stacked Michael Porter Jr. and De'Aaron Fox onto their roster in a 6-week span. That is not patience. That is a controlled explosion. That is Bob Myers' disciplined front office finally saying, we are all in on Steph one more time. And the entire NBA world, every rival GM, every analyst, every fan base is going to be talking about this specific summer for years, because this is the exact type of ambitious, targeted, cap manipulation driven contending run that only the smartest organizations in professional sports can pull off. And Dunleavy Jr., the son of an NBA coach, is proving he is one of the smartest GMs in the league. Try not to smile at that. That is professional excellence in real time. But the nightmare. I owe you the honest version. There is a world where Fox's ankle limits him again, where the aging Warriors core cannot survive a full playoff run, where the second apron restrictions strangle the roster in 2027 and 2028. That is real. Every version of an aggressive roster construction has those risks. But the alternative, being cautious with Steph's final years and finishing the play-in every season for the next 2 years, is worse. The Warriors chose the fight. That is what Golden State does. And now we get to watch it play out. So let me bring it home. De'Aaron Fox to the Warriors matters because Steph Curry has been publicly requesting a secondary ball handler since May, because the point of attack defensive scheme reboots to Kerr's dynasty template with Fox on the wing, and because Shams saying framework registered is the specific technical term that means this trade is filed with the NBA, and Bob Myers publicly praising the execution on live television is the receipt of the year. That's the case. Now here's what I'm watching next, and this is the next video, so hit subscribe because you do not want to miss it. If Fox lands in the Bay, the very next question is what happens with Jimmy Butler's role? Because a Curry-Fox-Butler backcourt is loaded, but the ball distribution math gets complicated. Does Butler become the sixth man? Does his ACL rehabilitation timeline shift the rotation? And what about the Kuminga sign and trade to Charlotte? What did the Hornets get out of the deal that hasn't been reported yet? I've got a read on all the ripple effects that will surprise you, but that's next time. For now, comments, likes, subscribe, Dub Nation, Kerr drove it, Dunleavy executed it, Curry benefits, Wild Summer.